Hey, you're fly fishing, you got tippet to deal with, let's deal with it. Yes, you can make a totally useful tippet holder for super cheap. Don't spend way too much on that mass-produced stuff because it's just so overpriced. For this, you only need a few inches of paracord, a little bit of heat shrink tube, which if you buy the tubing and you have everything else, you have a couple bucks in this thing. A lot of you can probably raid your junk drawer to find everything you need to make this. The upside of this is you can make it exactly how you want. Instead of being forced with dimensions or anything like that, you can make exactly what you want. So I'm not guiding the public anymore. So I don't need to carry 500 spools of tippet. I usually have 4 at the most, if that. So I don't need something that is 10 inches long and just holds a ton of stuff. I don't need that anymore. So I haven't bought a tippet holder in a long time. I've always made my own. I had a request from a buddy to make one, so I figured I would show you how I make these. I've used these for years. They hold up great. They work wonderful. So let's get to it. Again, first thing you'll need is a little bit of paracord. You'll need some heat shrink tubing. These, you have options here. I always keep a lot of these Night Eyes S carabiners on hand, but you can use the really, really cheap carabiners, you know, the small ones that you buy with keychains that are a couple bucks for a big old pack of them. You need at least one carabiner in my opinion. The second one I think can easily be substituted for multiple things, be it swivels, safety pins, a D-ring from, or sorry, a split ring from your keys, a quick release from keys. You got all kinds of options for your second attachment point, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. These, you need something to cut with, a lighter, and then the fender washer is also elective. However, I do think it helps a lot. This one is a 1/4 by 1.25 inch stainless steel fender washer. If you don't have it, don't lose sleep over it. If you want to get them, that's another couple bucks and you'll get enough to make quite a few little tippet holders. So even if you have to buy all the stuff to make these, you're not going to be much more than it will cost to buy one, and you'll be able to make 5 or 6 of them easily. With the heat shrink tubing, you can buy this pack, which is an assortment, 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. It's got a bunch of sizes in there, everything that you will need. So the first thing I try to do is just to size my heat shrink tubing based on the tippet that I'm going to be carrying. And I want it to be just barely bigger than the actual tippet. So if you're carrying a certain amount, cut it pretty true to size. Leave about, 1/4 inch or so sticking out either side. If you want to leave room to carry all kinds of tippet, make it as long or as short as you need. That's the great thing about this. You can customize it to exactly what you want. Now, me personally, I know that I am not going to need much more tippet than what this is right here, so I do not need room to grow. So I am going to cut my heat shrink based on the tippet that I have here. Now, even though I cut that pretty close to what this is, I'll still have room for another spool or 2 if I want. So you're not locking yourself into anything here. So now cut yourself a decent length of paracord. Ultimately, depending on what you're going to make, you probably don't need much more than 1 foot. And we are going to strip the core out of the paracord. Whilst I'm getting all of this sorted, I am going to singe the ends here so that this is not constantly unraveling as I'm working with it. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to size it roughly. So what I want to do is take that, insert it into my heat shrink, which takes a little bit of fiddling, but it'll go. There we go. And I want to leave somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/2 inch to 1 inch sticking out of each end, roughly right there. You can go shorter if you want, or you can go longer if you want, whatever you want. I usually go for roughly 1/2 inch-ish sticking out, okay? And I'm going to pinch right there, and I'm going to cut right there. Easy as that. So now I'm going to remove that again, and I'm going to once again singe these ends just to tame everything down. And we're actually going to fuse these. So I'm going to get everything gathered here, and I am going to melt these ends to where they are super melty so that I can fuse this together. So get it nice and hot, and then just stick that together while it's still kind of malleable. I'm going to pinch and clean it up a little bit. There we go. That is fused together. So another thing you'll see, once we get the heat shrink tubing on here, there's going to be a little hump in the middle. Aesthetically, if that bothers you, don't fuse these ends together. Just super glue this. Put some dollops of super glue and just super glue it with your attachment point here in the center, because we do want that inside of the heat shrink. Me personally, I don't care that it'll have a little hump, because once we melt down that heat shrink, it'll be tighter on each side of it, and there's just no way that that thing can pull apart at that point. So I think it actually makes it nice and strong, and I don't care that there's a little hump in there. It doesn't bother me at all, but you can fix that if it bothers you. All right, so now we just stick our paracord back through the heat shrink, get it to where you want it to be, and then go ahead and shrink down your tube. And there we go. So if you have a heat gun or something like that, there's easier ways to shrink down that tubing. I'm just trying to keep it as simple and cheap as possible, so I just used a lighter. But what you will have is everything nice and fused. That heat shrink is going to protect the paracord here where your spools will be. Again, with this hump here, if that bothers you, you can avoid it by gluing instead of melting. But again, for me, the heat shrink is tighter here and here than it is here. So it kind of just strangles that down. There's no way this thing's coming apart now. This thing is ridiculously strong. All right, from here, whatever you want your bottom attachment point to be, you would put it here. Again, you can use a D-ring from your keys, any number of things there. Be creative with it. Having something down here, some sort of loop, some sort of something, allows you to attach other things to your tippet holder. It just gives you another point of contact for organizing your stuff. Now we will take our washer and just drop that right down onto the bottom. Okay, whatever size you want to use here, you can use a thinner washer, bigger washer, whatever you want. Now our holder simply goes through our spools, and there we go. I have room for more, but I also have this down to pretty much just the size I want. I don't have a bunch of extra stuff dedicated that I'm not even using. Then we would take our other carabiner, put that right on the top to hang from our vest, from our sling pack, whatever we're going to hang it from, and there you go. Something else I've done in the past, I have a past video where I took a synthetic wine cork and made a fly dryer. If you make this long enough, drill a hole through that cork, it will slide right down on top of this, and then you also have a little fly dryer on top of your tippet holder as well. It's a nice little system. Tons of room to customize, tons of room to be creative. You have plenty of room here in the loop if you want to put other attachment points or hang other things from it, whatever you want to do. This is a nice soft paracord. Your hemostats can clip right to it. All kinds of options here, and it's so cheap, so easy to make. There's no reason not to, just because you can customize this to be exactly what you want it to be. This is a quick, easy, dirty little build. I've made these things for years. Again, this thing is not coming apart. It's just not. It is as solid as you will ever need a tippet holder to be. So please like and subscribe. Please help the channel continue to grow. Reach out to us in the comments. We love to talk to you. It's not an algorithm thing. We just wholeheartedly like to communicate with the outdoor community. Please leave us comments of things you would like to see, some ideas that you would like to maybe see come to fruition, whatever it may be. Just reach out to us. We love to talk to you, love to hear from you. Thank you for giving us your time and clicking on the video. Tight lines.